and porn addictions. I am your host, Craig Pera, the founder of the Mindful Habit System, and I am honored and privileged that you are here listening to me today. Today, we're going to talk about extortion. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I do not lead from a place of fear. It's unhealthy. It's destructive. It doesn't work long term. But that doesn't mean that you, brother, listening to this podcast should not be aware of the risks. And there is a rapidly rising risk that is happening to more and more of my clients, and that is the rapid rise in extortion. Okay? These extortion plots have resulted in suicide. They have resulted in suicide. That's how bad they can get. And here's what happens. Let me explain to you the facts. Okay? Guy's feeling lonely. Guy makes mistakes, goes online, starts searching for escorts. Maybe he saw it in a TV show. Maybe whatever triggered him to do that, he finds himself calling places. Now, when we men are in that place where we're losing control, are we thinking security? Are we thinking operational security? Even if we're in a security role, it is often the men who know. Listen, we all know better, but we make ourselves vulnerable. So what happens, guys, is Joe, we'll make up a name. Joe calls the prostitute, says, "Hi, my name's Joe. I'd like to schedule an appointment." Joe panics, says, "What am I doing? There's no way that I'm going to go forward with this." Joe hangs up. Joe does what he was trained to do, right? If he's been in treatment, right? Lying, compartmentalizing, sex addiction, porn addiction, right? He took a few steps down the negative path, put the brakes on, and he thinks he's done with it. But here is what's happening in more often, and it is so important. If you are out there chatting with strangers, soliciting prostitutes, there are serious risks, and those risks are increasing. 5 years ago, I never had this issue. Never did it come up. I mean, we're talking by that point, 6 years of working with men, soliciting prostitutes and going to massage parlors and never being extorted, ever. Now I see it all the time. There's at least one call every 2 weeks. And I've had a number of clients recently who found their way to me after these transgressions. And here's what they do. I want you to understand this. And this is from a case who the guy committed suicide. He felt so lost. He felt so confused. He didn't know what to do. He felt that they were going to expose him because and everyone listening to this, think in the past how vulnerable you've made yourself. Maybe you've used your personal phone number. Your personal phone number is connected to your social media account. Now that they've got your personal phone number, now it's connected to your social media account. They know who you are. They know where you work. They know what you do. They know your partner's name. They know a lot. They've got your LinkedIn profile. So this is an invitation, a plea begging you to be mindful of the risks that you are taking. And see, there's an irony, right? Because the guys who really want to go through with it, this isn't true for everybody, but there are places with reviews, with some ability to minimize the risk. You have to pay for that. But there are things people can do to minimize the risk of law enforcement, of extortion, et cetera, et cetera. Is there anything you can do to eliminate it? No. It's the guys who haven't crossed the line yet. Like or the guys who haven't never. Listen, this affects everybody. But I'm noting there's a population of men who didn't cross the line and physically be in someone else's presence. They thought about it. And what is a really common practice in this space is what I call fishing. Do you connect with that? The fishing, the you're not catching anything, but you cast a net. Right? And that's what I used to do. I used to waste the prostitutes' times. I would talk to them. I would ask them to send me pictures. I would reveal things about myself. And I got lucky. There was one time when I got pulled over, but that was a different story. I was very, very fortunate that despite exposing myself in so many ways, I was not extorted. So here's what happened. So this guy tried to block the number. They called on other numbers, didn't go to the police, didn't get a lawyer, paid, never pay, never pay, never pay. What about never pay? This is the time to lawyer up and to find someone in your locale who can help you do it quickly and go to the police to help you. Okay, whatever problem you think you're going to get is not, this family lost their father. This family lost their father because, we only want one payment. You wasted the person's time. Wasted the person's time. I called. I hung up. What do you mean I wasted the person's time? I didn't even schedule the appointment. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Right? They send pictures of violent scenes. They send pictures of guns. It's scary. I've talked to people in it. Like going through it. They are terrified. They are scared. They think it's real. Meaning it's a real person who's scamming them, but it's not a cartel. It's not someone who's going to physically hurt them. But you don't know that. So I want to give you some tips on what to do about it. But I just want to highlight for everyone who's listening to think about your legacy. And what is it that you want to accomplish? Because you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? And if it's worth it, take the steps to eliminate the risks. For you brothers who are fishing, stop. Certainly don't be doing. I'm not going to tell you how to get around it. Okay. I'm not going to tell you how to get it. Be responsible. This is happening to so many people. In this case, they caught the people. They're going to be receiving felony charges. So please, as we go into 2023, I want you to do your own personal risk assessment. And when you do a risk assessment, you do what's called an exposure analysis. Okay, write that down. Exposure analysis. And for example, as an attorney, when I don't practice law anymore, but when I used to, someone would come to me and they'd share with me they were arrested for something, right? So as the attorney, I want to understand what is their exposure, right? What's the worst that can happen? Well, they're charged with 2 felonies. There's a misdemeanor. Their exposure, the worst thing that could happen is exposure of 15 years in jail, for example, right? Or if you're analyzing a problem for work, okay, here's the problem. Here are the bad things that could happen if this problem materializes. I invite you to do an exposure analysis. An exposure analysis is to look at your behaviors and where are you going beyond. Where are the behaviors involving other people, right? That's one way to evaluate risk. You might be chatting with people online. What exposure does that create? Are you now creating a potential extortion? Are you revealing things about yourself that could ultimately be dangerous to you and your family? Are you connecting with strangers? Are you sending pictures of yourself? Are you doing things that could be later used against you? Because ultimately, you want to be a man who has a legacy to be proud of. I don't do these things. There's an identity of him. No, I don't take those risks. And for every man that crosses the line, there's another one who said, no, I'm tempted. I'm curious. I'm wondering. It's easy. 9 times out of 10, nothing bad will happen, but there's no way, right? There's no way that they don't cross that line. So why? Why drawing that line? And for those of you who are listening live, if you have any questions about extortion and its connection to sex addiction, please post them in the chat. Thank you so much for listening. And for those of you listening on recording on my podcast, if you want to join me live, please subscribe to me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn. And YouTube or Twitter. I think I might have left one out. So let me know in the chat if you have any questions about this. I could go on and on with each terrible story, with each painful thing that has happened to so many different people, with the thousands of dollars wasted. It's really, really sad. And I don't want you to get caught. And there's a couple of things that I just recommend. I recommend you talk to an attorney. I recommend you never pay. I recommend, going to see a lawyer who knows what they're doing, and you will find a growing number of people who understand it. Whatever you do, block. And I hope this was helpful. I hope this helped you be mindful of the risks that you are taking. Right. And you're not here's the thing you need to do when you do an exposure analysis. You're not evaluating likelihood. You're not doing likelihood. What is the likelihood of you being extorted? Maybe out of 100 times, I don't know. Nowadays, God, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. I'm exaggerating, but it depending upon what site you're finding your information and calling somebody seeking prostitution services. So when you do an exposure analysis and you look at the risk that you're creating, what could happen? What are the possibilities, right? Is there any possibility right now on this podcast that I'm doing something else? No, look, here are my hands, right? Like there's no risk. I'm recording a podcast. I mean, someone might hate it. Someone might think I'm an idiot. Someone might upload it to an adult site. I recently heard of my face appearing on anyway, I'll keep you posted as this story evolves. I just learned something this morning. Haven't even confirmed it, but I did see my mug in a screenshot. So, but my point is, right? No risk. Risk I might say something wrong, risk might I offend somebody, but so what is the potential? What could happen? And if you are connecting, and listen, we have seen evidence of people's porn history being used by the government to leverage their people's cooperation. So I'm hesitating because there's a whole bunch of other risks in terms of where you're going, what you're looking at. what you're doing, right? Like what story could someone say about you based upon your porn history? And think about that for a second. Let's take the person who hates you the most, and if I'm talking, like someone at work, or someone is so right. Think about what story someone angry at you could create with what you're watching. Think about that for a second, right? And I'm thinking about what I used to watch. What would that look like? One of the things we learned as an attorney is picture your words blown up, in front of the 12 people on the jury, the judge, the bailiff, the people in the audience. Picture your words, right? Imagine your porn history. And think of the risk that your porn history creates for you. I'm not saying that risk is going to materialize, right? You got the privacy, you got the phone, you're in your bedroom, you're alone. But exposure? What if you didn't delete the history? What if someone saw it? What if you dropped your phone and someone picked it up and wasn't able to discern that this was from a website that might have been full of only legal content, for example? How about, man, we stop creating risks for ourselves that impact our legacy, that make our life worse? What if we only do things in alignment with the men that we want to be? We don't take risks, not because, they're bad, of course we don't want the bad things to happen. That was kind of the purpose of this podcast, to alert you to the bad things that are happening more and more and more. But we don't do that to ourselves because there's an identity of someone who doesn't do that. I don't do that. I have something to be proud of. I'm building something. I'm proud of my relationships. I'm proud of the life that I'm creating. I'm proud of the man that I've become. I don't have that leakage. I'm not on the wrong track. And when I am, I quickly get back on. I have community. I have accountability. I'm proactively managing my parts. I'm practicing self-care, and that self-care is rooted in self-love. I care about myself. That's the other side of this. That's the potential. That's feeding the right wolf. That's meeting needs proactively. So if you are creating unnecessary risks in your life, please stop. Because while the chances are that bad things aren't going to happen, Joe, Steve, Tom, Mike, Eric, make up 20 guys' names. Good men, great men, great men, great men, fathers, love their families, love their children. They made a mistake. They made a mistake, and this compounded the interest on that mistake in ways that they couldn't even fathom, couldn't appreciate. You're now aware of the risk. Get your rocks off someplace else. Create healthy sexuality. Don't create unnecessary risks for you and your family. And if you are creating those risks, when you look at your exposure analysis and you are engaging in behavior that could get you arrested, that could get you extorted, that could get you fired, you got to get help. You got to get help. You can't do it alone. It might be the free program Smart Recovery, smartrecovery.org, Smart Recovery, one word, great free program. Maybe you connect more with 12 steps. I say, hey, give that Smart Recovery a try. I like the science there. It's very intriguing to me, very appealing to me. But find the whatever it is to do what you need to do to be healthy, to be happy. If you think you might connect with me, you can visit the website, look at the core training option, themindfulhabit.com. Use the coupon code podcast. We have not changed that discount yet. We don't offer this kind of a discount, but I did it once and it's still there. And I said, why not? You have the, listening to me here and just my great gratitude for that. If you use the coupon code podcast for the core training program, you will get 36% off, right? For as long as that's available. Okay. Doesn't have to be with me. I mentioned Smart Recovery. I mentioned 12 steps. Maybe your church has a group. Maybe your temple has a group. Do something. If you were pulled into this podcast by the word extortion and sex addiction, and your wheels are turning as you reflect on behaviors that you've engaged in, and upon reflection, those behaviors have created significant risk to the great life that I want to create for myself, let's stop doing things that are making this journey harder. And if you can't stop doing those things, get help, because there's a lot of great stuff out there. Okay. Couple of book recommendations before we wrap up. I'm going to try to leave you with more free resources. This is not available for sale yet, since I have the only copy. For those of you watching and not listening, The Parts of Me. Look at that awesome illustration by Kelly Paisley and Scotty Hall. This is a great, great kids book on parts work. When it's for sale, I'm going to let you know, because you're going to learn a lot about yourself with this book. The other book that I recommend that should be on everybody's mandatory reading list is the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and the book No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. Okay, so some great resources for you there. Again, if you find yourself in your exposure analysis and you're creating risks that you don't want to create and you're having trouble stop, get help. I wouldn't be here without my therapist, without my counselors, without colossally falling on my face over and over again. And in light of my behaviors, it was simple. If it was today, I would have added extortion to my problems. I just did stupid things and didn't care about who knew. And even though I should have. I'll hang out for a second and see if anybody has any questions in the chat. For those of you awesome men and women who are joining me live, thank you so much for dedicating your time and sharing this special time with me. Wish you much success, wish you much love. Thank you for listening to Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions. You only live once. Make it great. Embrace your power of choice and feed the right wolf inside.